Hello and welcome to another episode of Witchy Business. Today we are joined by Soph, and I'm going to hand over to her to introduce herself and tell us more about all the amazing things that you do.
Yes, thank you. So I'm Sophie KD. My actual surname is Kolaski Daniels, but I abbreviate it because it's a mouthful. I'm a conscious business coach and the founder of the Slow CEO, which is a conscious business program that encourages business leaders with a purpose to level up by slowing down.
How would you define conscious leaders and conscious business owners?
Yeah, so ultimately, I think having a purpose guiding your work is really important. A purpose to make the world a better place. They have a vision of healing people, healing the world, leaving the world in a better place that they've found it. And also they are conscious in, the sense of aware. They have self-awareness. They're working on themselves. They're aware that the way that they are in the world is sort of reflected back to them by their business and the world around them.
And how did you tell us more about your journey to being here right now?
Yeah. So it's a funny journey, really. I went straight into work from school. I didn't go to university, and so at the age of 18 I was like in a corporate business, and I was there for 5 years and sort of worked away, and I really kind of did that for 5 years at one business, and then I moved, and so I've been working in the corporate world for sort of 10 years on and off. And the off times was because I just had this real gut feeling that there was something wrong with the way that we were doing things. And like, as humans, we shouldn't just be in an office 9 to 5, grind. And I remember this moment really clearly when I was coming home from work at the age of 18, just like, up until this point of our lives, first of all, this is the point that we've all been like groomed for, like you're an adult, you're out into the big bad world, you're employed at a job. And I was like, cool, I've made it. And then a few weeks later, I was like, this is it, like until I retire. Like there's no progression, or there's no long breaks to look forward to. I've got 21 days of holiday, and this is it for the next 50 years. And I was just like, oh my God, it all just felt really wrong. And sort of a few things like working too hard, burnout, just that corporate conditioning led to me taking a career break. Then I found yoga, and I've trained to be a yoga teacher, and just explored like healing modalities as well as this kind of corporate world. And so the two were sort of almost fighting against each other in a way, because I was like, how can I hold this if I also hold this? And then I had my own marketing agency, and I thought I want to start my own business because then I can lead in the way I want to lead. And I found that I just got sucked back into like corporate world, and I was like, unless I really consciously choose to do business in a different way, then I'm just going to get sucked back into the same sort of hustle culture way of doing it. So yeah, in the last year or 18 months or so, those two paths have sort of merged into one, and I had this realization that actually the two can work together. This, the business and making money and doing things in a really holistic, gentle, caring way for ourselves. And that's the conscious side of it, really. So yeah, that's where my business was born from, these two paths that have just sort of united.
I love it. Yeah. It's music to our ears. Yeah, we're all about slowing down. And I just want to pick up on something that we were chatting about before we started recording, that you are a projector in human design. And everything that you're saying is so trajectory, isn't it? It's like you notice that there's that this is not sustainable, and so then you go out and you try and create that change and guide, and it's really amazing to hear. And are you posted on your stories today your view? Where are you in the world right now?
So I'm in Hertfordshire, on my friend's farm. It's called the Croft Farm Escape, and I live in a camper van. Me and my boyfriend have been doing van life for since April, so 4 months or so. And so at the moment I'm looking out over to a really nice field, and we've been traveling around. We went to Scotland and then through Europe, and we have really good Wi-Fi with us, which enables us to do it, and this is our lifestyle at the moment.
I love it.
Yeah.
So much.
So good. How do you, so thinking about how you run your business and in a more conscious way and a slower pace of life, and then traveling in the camper van, how does that work? Do you have a routine? Do you have a structure? What are some of your tips or ways that you do it?
Yeah, that's such an interesting point, because I'm actually realizing for the first time that the lifestyle really does complement the conscious business aspect of things, because we're in nature all of the time, and I think nature is, fundamental to the conversation about slowing down and just regulating our nervous systems. And so we are always in nature, which really helps to slow down and to live a more balanced lifestyle, which I think also conscious business is about. It's not just about the way that you turn up to your business, but it's about the way that you treat yourself as a person first and foremost, and then can from that space come into your business. And so the lifestyle of traveling around in a van means that we get to see amazing things and have variety and have adventure and beautiful nature, which means we're fulfilled enough to come to work and do a good job, rather than when we used to live in central London. It was just like the same thing every day and the same people every day and the same, and it's really easy to turn up to work and just be like, what's new in my life? Like, I have nothing to look forward to. So in terms of the routine though, I think we have like a general routine. My partner also works, like he's employed and he works 9 till 5, and I find that I sort of, because it's just a van and we're both in the same space, I sort of mirror that. And so we just wake up, go for it, like get outside in nature, come back, just same really as anybody else. Work throughout the day. Sometimes if I'm not feeling it, I'll be like, okay, I'll go for a walk, and then finish up, get out. It's just nice to have different things to do before and after work, but generally the rhythm of the day is sort of similar to everybody else's, really.
I feel like having, because I kind of do a similar thing in terms of my husband works in a 9 to 5, but I sort of mirror that as well, even though I don't have to. But I do find it quite helpful, and there are days where I start later or I finish earlier, but I know not everyone works in this way. Some people like to not have that, typical you Anna, but I find that really helpful too. So
I do as well. And when we weren't in the van, we'd be in different rooms, and so I would find myself sort of just doing something else for a little bit, and whereas I do find it really helpful to have that structure, that I can be like, okay, well, I'm doing this now because we're doing this now, and it really helps me personally. But I think it's really about finding what works for individual people. We're all different.
And I'm wondering now if it's like a projector thing as well, because I'm a manifesting generator surrounded by projectors. But the 9 to 5 thing really doesn't work for me. And I feel like there's it's a big part of what made me want to work for myself was not to have the business hours. And I very often, if I don't have calls, will actually start working around 2 and go until like the early evening kind of thing, or into around 8 or something. But that's when I find myself more productive and in the flow. And sometimes I just like grab my laptop and leave the house and go to a cafe for like 4 hours and just smash like 4 hours in one go, and that's my work day. Because the whole like I love slow mornings, like that's a big thing for me. And so I find that super interesting to choose to work for yourself in your own way. And like, if you can't see me, big quote unquote, like still do the regular hours. It's funny how different things really work for different people. It just takes time to find what's right for you, and allowing yourself as well to do what's right for you.
And being open to changes and sort of phases as well. I think sometimes, like, absolutely I'm the same as you, Anna, the 9 to 5, the appeal of working for myself is like, oh, I don't have to have a 9 till 5, and then the reality is I end up sort of doing something similar, and then sometimes I'm like, I just really, now is not the time to work, I'm really feeling low, or I want to work in the evening, and then not fighting that, allowing my body to just lead the way because it's happening like that for some reason. And I think that's the beauty of working for myself, is that I'm allowed to do that. And like I encourage people to find their own way that works for them.
Like, talking about things that we each do our own way, are there like practices that you have in place to resource yourself, and ones that you've got in place to like get into your work zone?
Yes, I do have a slow CEO ritual on a Monday, or whatever day I come back to work, or sometimes midweek if I'm like a bit scattered and I just want to focus my energy. And it starts off with, I like to ritualize everything I do in my business, because it just makes it feel really like nourishing, and sort of, it's that rebellion against that corporate side of business that's like, why can't I make this a self-care practice as well and like really enjoy it? And so my slow CEO ritual, I think, starts with like space setting up. I'm big on my space, so I'll make sure everything's clean and tidy, light an incense or a candle, have some nice music on in the background, like I love that, the binaural beats and stuff. Maybe pull an oracle card, like just really get into it. And sometimes have crystals, like that whole witchy side of things. I'm just, it makes me feel grounded and like I'm doing something special for myself. And then I'll go into the more like businessy side of things. So start off with just looking at my emails, doing any quick tasks, looking at my like plan for the month or the week, and then sort of and I have it all written down so that I don't have to think about like, oh, what should I do next to get in the zone? It's like I've designed it in order for me to feel completely in the zone and energized by the time I get through to it. I'm breathing as well. It's just another big thing. Like with all of my client calls, I just start the call with a breath and a mini meditation, and something as well, which I really like to incorporate, is just remembering your purpose and like why you're here, why you're working, and fighting the tech and whatever like difficult things might be happening that day, but just like this excuse me, this is why I'm doing it. breathing, meditating, and then coming into it. And it's just so simple. And like, those two worlds just combines those two worlds so nicely. And then just the way that we can approach our work when we do that is amazing.
So powerful.
Like such a good balance of that masculine and feminine energy as well.
Yeah.
Tuning in back into you and your purpose before doing your work. That's a really good reminder.
Yeah. Because I think it's so easy for people to get bogged down with the daily tasks, or like they've said to themselves 5 months ago that they were going to do this, and they're just like, especially people that are running their own businesses, I think it's really difficult when you are your own boss to have this sort of like bird's eye view direction of like what you should be doing today, this week, this month, this quarter. And so all of that really leads into that little seed of your purpose and what is driving you. And so from connecting to that, it's like, oh yeah, this is what it just leads into a much more easeful way of doing things.
Yeah.
So what is your purpose, your mission, your why?
Yeah. So mine is, I'm like playing, not that I'm playing around with a couple, but I'm like, I haven't married them together yet. One is really like just to elevate the consciousness of humanity. I think that's just really the overarching one. And then I think the other one, which I'm sort of marrying into it, is by bridging the worlds of spirituality, if you want to use that word, or consciousness and business.
Yeah.
Sort of these two realms, and by doing that, elevating the consciousness of humanity. Because I really feel like working in the business world is my purpose. Like I went straight into it. I love it. I thrive in it. I'm business savvy, and so it felt almost wrong to consider a world where I wasn't in this arena. And I, when we think about the world, it's sort of it's ruled by business, by economy, by money. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but in order, like in meeting the world where it's at, which is ruled by that, then really we need to tackle business and the way that we do business. And I love to think of the whole spectrum of working with the individual business owner who's purpose driven, all the way up to imagine the Coca-Colas of the world, and the Googles and the Facebook. Imagine if they worked in a conscious way where they promoted, they promote well-being, but like really focused on growing an individual's potential. And that would change the world just from businesses changing their culture, and by the individual humans within those organizations kind of becoming more aware. And so that's why I feel like business is really my purpose, bringing that conscious element to it.
Yeah
100%.
Absolutely love that. Yeah, because it's what I find is that like a lot of people do personal development and work on themselves, and they have that whole like, I was gonna say awoken, but more conscious side of themselves. But then they step into their business shoes or their employee shoes, and you walk in and it's like that has to stay at the door. And I think it's such a beautiful and important thing to do, to work with businesses to change the way things are. Absolutely.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I found I was practicing yoga and meditating and stuff, and then running my own business, and I'd leave all of that at the door the moment I open my laptop, and then I'm into like hustle and grind. And I was like, why do we forget all of our self-care practice when we're at work? Like I forget to breathe, I forget to check in with myself. And so it's almost like an untapped potential there, and that's what I'm so excited about. Like imagine just blending that self-care with the business, it just makes work so much more enjoyable. And I think so many people find their business and their work a source of stress and a source of, like, you know, anxiety and getting tired and burnt out. And it's because we're left with this like hustle culture, industrial revolution hangover, where it's always like more, rather than just accepting that we're humans first and foremost, and we like live in the cycles and the seasons. And yeah,
industrial revolution hangover, I'm keeping that. I absolutely love it. It's so true. I mean, even schools, that's what they are. Our whole education system is built around creating better industrial employees.
It's all about like how we can get more out of people, make things more productive, more efficient, and like that served a purpose, and that's where we came from. And it's like we've realized that actually that's a bit toxic to not just the human race but the earth, really. This overproduction is just not it's not helping anyone.
So much conditioning. I would love to hear your thoughts on, for anyone who says that they love the hustle, because I see this quite a lot, and I think sometimes stress does go unnoticed because it's disguised as like a migraine or, you know, whatever the physical symptoms of stress are. But then you don't really ultimately, some people don't realize that that's stress or burnout, and then they think that they love the hustle. But do they? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Ultimately, like the simple answer is it's just conditioning, and we've been taught that to be productive is to be worthy and to be celebrated. And, you know, the more you can do in the quickest time, the better you are. And so I think people romanticize the hustle culture because to them it's like a symbol of status. And ultimately, you know, the nuance there is there are some people that do, like, you know, the more worker bees type of people and like to do things. And I would just argue that as long as they've been introduced to a slower life and been taught that it's okay and natural to live, you know, in a slower way and be more present and invite more of life into life, and they still want to continue working around, you know, working a lot, then okay. But if you haven't considered living more rather than working more, then like maybe question that first.
Thank you. Yeah. So it's like just introducing, just spreading the goodness of slowness. And then when people experience it, because that's kind of what I think. It's like you can't go back once you experience a slower pace of life, right? Because you actually like get to know your body, you get to know your energy. And I mean, imagine going back into the corporate world.
Yeah, that's it. And I think it's just questioning the things that we've never questioned before. I think for a lot of people, it's just, you know, we're on this escalator of life, and the next step is the work world for the majority of the population. And it's just, then you don't question it, because a lot of people, you know, we've been taught and told not to really question things. And so when you start to question, why do I love this hustle culture? Do I actually feel good? Like, am I actually enjoying my life? What is it that I enjoy about life, and am I doing enough of that? For me, I was just like, I'm working so much, and for who? Like, who am I earning money for? Who, like, I'm using my skills for someone else. And it's like I would love to just enjoy everything that life has to offer, but I think there's a huge stigma about it as well. I think slowing down and living a more present, it's a more natural way of being. Like ultimately we are humans, we're not machines. And I think there's a bit of a stigma about that being lazy, or like, oh, you're a slacker or something like that. And that's actually part of my conditioning that I'm still working through, because it will always, you don't just like, go, oh, I'm going to be a slow CEO now and forget all of that. Like with everything, we're always working through these little stories in our heads about what it means to do things in a different way. But yeah, ultimately we're just, for me as well, in that moment, I mentioned that moment where I was like, had the realization that I was be at work for 50 years until retirement. And every retirement is put on, I mean, everyone looks forward to retirement. That's what people work for. And I thought, why would I work for retirement when I can just blend the two and sort of live more now, work a little bit, like it just, instead of doing a huge stint of work and then a huge stint of not work, like just blend the two a little bit. And because that's really what life is for. Like we're the only animals on the planet that have to pay to be here.
Yeah, we're the
That's
only
so true.
harder.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Just making work life more sustainable as well.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. It's like no wonder we need to completely stop. It's we completely drain ourselves. And yeah, you see those people who are a couple of years away from retirement and they've just drained of life force, and then you retire and your only purpose in life is no longer there. And then you have to rediscover yourself at like 65, 68, and yeah, it doesn't feel right.
Yeah. And there's I mean, even just in this conversation, like we've all shared our ways of working and how we like to work, and times that by everyone listening, everyone who everyone who you've worked with, and we all have such different energy levels and types and ways of working. And yeah, it's to just do a way of life and a way of working that someone else has said that you have to, someone else has dictated to you, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm a believer that every single person here has a gift, and I think those gifts, when you're put in a box and prescribed the way that you're going to live, it can suppress those gifts, because it's like, well, you're just, in some cases, for the people that don't like to work like that, it's demoralizing and just, it really just takes the life out of them, and those gifts are not given space to arise, really.
Yeah, absolutely. What would you say is the first step or one piece of advice that you would give anyone listening, whether they are a business owner or currently working full time, to really just start their journey of slowing down?
The first thing that's come to mind, and so I'll say it, is doing a yin yoga class. Because when I first did a yin yoga class, I don't think I'd ever done anything as slow as that in my life. And I got so much from it. And, like just having that as a example and a demonstration of how slowing down can give you so much. And slowing down doesn't mean stopping. Slowing down doesn't mean you're not receiving. Actually, you're giving yourself space to receive. And so it's a very practical tip to just go and do a yin yoga class, and because I think that really just resets your system and can show you that it's safe to slow down and you're still moving forward. So yeah, that wasn't the answer that I would have predicted I'd give, but I think it's so important to show people that there's so much beauty in slowness and power.
Yeah, I absolutely love
That
it. Yin yoga is my favorite type to teach, and yeah, I think it's such a powerful practice.
Yeah, it is, and it's just so soothing. And you think of how often we really actually slow down or stop, or how often the average person does without picking up their phone or without doing something, and just allowing that space to just be like rarely ever.
And for all those like who really like to challenge themselves and the go-getters and all of that, it's also like a discovery that slowing down isn't necessarily like lazy or easy. And there is discomfort to move through, and there's like an endurance to slowing down, an endurance building of like that capacity to hold the discomfort, because in yin yoga you will be in like uncomfortable positions because you're like really stretching into them and giving your body like real time to let go of every layer. So
yeah, absolutely. I love to think about it as like when you're like cooking a curry or something, you don't put every single thing in like one after the other and then eat it once you've done, like, you have to give it space to just do its thing. And without that time and space, the chemistry, like the actual science of it all, doesn't have time to take place. And then you have a better tasting curry for giving it the time and space. And so it's the same with life, like just allowing things, like backing off and allowing things to be and to breathe, and then you'll have a better tasting life.
Yes.
very good. Yeah. I actually I hated yin when I first did it for the first time because I was so stuck in the hustle and just couldn't be with my thoughts and my emotions and myself for that long. And I went into the class with my Fitbit, turned my Fitbit on for a yin class. And but now I absolutely love it, and I love that you said that. And
exactly, like that. I think that discomfort that we face during slowing down is essential to just being more at peace, because otherwise it all builds up, and we've created a world like we've created with the wars and the climate change and the earth, like we've created that from doing what we've been doing. So we need to stop and pause and allow the discomfort to come up and be present with ourselves so that we can do things in a different way. I think to start that, it's almost like it is uncomfortable to make the change, I think, from like that go to okay, maybe this is not the answer. And also I think an important part of it is like redefining what each person's success means to them, because otherwise we're literally living a life that somebody else prescribed to us, and it's like load of money, big house, holidays, fast cars, and it's like, wait, is that, like, I think we all need to stop and consider what we want so that we can bring that into our lives here and now. And I think not many people stop to consider that either.
Yeah, I think that ties in with what you were saying about everyone has their gifts, but they don't have a space to breathe when we're in the hustle. And it's the same for that, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's like imagining how they want to feel during their life, not like feel when you're retired, because I feel like that's so sad. Like, you can feel anyway, but it has to be when you're 65 if you get to that age. And it's like, well, actually you have the option to live your best life today if you just consider it for yourself. And yeah, it's sort of that individual thinking for ourselves rather than just following what has been prescribed to us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's been so nice to chat.
Very much. Yeah, I've loved this chat. We haven't had a guest in a while, and this felt really, really good. I love that it was you.
Oh, thank you. I've loved it so much too. It's so nice to just get really passionate about it and talk about where it really like comes from and the importance of it as well, and just how, like going fast is almost like the pandemic, that speed and the industrial revolution hangover is the pandemic. And so yeah, it's just great to speak to like-minded souls, because also the thing that I've realized is that so many people share this view now, and like there's so many people talking about slowing down. There is a huge shift happening, and like the world is ready for it. And so the more people that are brave enough to do it and do things in a different way gives permission to other people that it's okay to do things in that way. And it just, we're creating the change. So yeah.
Yeah, and just to add to that really quickly, that's the reason I asked about what do you think about people who don't know what stress is, or they don't see it the way that we see it, I guess, because I'm in this Facebook group and someone had asked, is there a way to do business in a different way to what we know it, in a slower paced way, in a more conscious way? And there were tons of comments saying yes, but then there were quite a few comments saying, no, the hustle is good. The hustle is the only way. And it did kind of shock me a little bit, I think, because like you said, the world is ready for it. And I'm also realizing that other people feel this way too. But then when you see that, it's a bit like, oh, okay, so we're still on this journey.
Yeah. Ultimately, that everyone has different beliefs, and we might get to 100 years where slow living and slow working is the way that the majority of people do things, and there might still be people that think that, and that's okay. Like, I want to do things this way, and I know that I get more out of it, and I'm pretty sure other people do too. And so I'm just going to carry on sharing that. And yeah.
But I love that you're doing this with business. It's like, you're showing individuals how slow business can be done, and it's almost like an in way to show businesses how business can be done slowly. By doing it with entrepreneurs and people who work for themselves, which is the definition of an entrepreneur. So much for coming on today. We'll put everything in the show notes, but can you please share like where people can find you, and if you've got a program or anything like that you would like to share? This is your moment.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So I'm on Instagram at Sophie KD _com, COM. And yes, I've got my 6-month program coming up, the Slow CEO, which is a really everything we've spoken about today. So unlearning corporate conditioning, learning how to do conscious business in a nurturing and nourishing way, and just redefining the relationship to your business whilst also making money, because that is an important part of life, to be on this planet. So yeah, it's a fusion of the two. And my website will be up, which is sophiekd.com. Yeah, simple as that.
thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so much.
It was really lovely. And for everyone, we'll see you next week.